everybody. All right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for Montana PBS Media Lab, the Finding Your Roots edition of this workshop. We're going to just start by having you introduce yourself, put your name, role, and location in the chat box there so we can see. Jody got us all started. Thank you, Jody. Tell us where you are and what you teach. I see a couple of familiar faces, but then I see a lot of brand new faces, which I'm really excited to have you with us this afternoon. My name is Nikki Bradenberg, and I am the Director of Education here at Montana PBS. I've been in this role for about 4 years, and most of my projects focus on professional development for teachers. This is an online series, and we have 12 workshops in this online series. And so I do a lot of virtual professional development, but I also go and present at conferences, and I visit schools and work with teachers in their settings as well. Before, I guess I'll get to my next slide here. Before I was in this role, I was a teacher in a rural school just east of Bozeman called Lamont School. I taught out there for about 13 years and then got a chance to move into this position. This is all of my contact information. And so if you need to reach out to me, you probably already received some emails from me. If you're on Twitter and you're connected on Twitter, please find me there. I also have a YouTube channel that every training I've ever recorded is archived on that YouTube channel. So our past Media Lab workshops can be found there as well. And if you just go to YouTube and select Nikki Bradenberg, you'll see all of our things. All right, let's go to the next slide. So I want to share the goals for this workshop. The reason we're hosting this series, the big reason is we got a grant from the PBS station in Washington, D.C. That makes the show Finding Your Roots, asking PBS stations to conduct teacher trainings using Finding Your Roots. And so we took that idea and combined it with one of our existing programs, which is this Montana PBS Media Lab model, because we want to inspire teachers to use Finding Your Roots with your students in some way, whether it's just your own personal information or if you've got students that would like to watch clips from the show, and to engage in some kind of a family research project that's appropriate for the kids that you work with. We want to provide training and support so you can also implement digital storytelling. And our partners in this project are the Montana Historical Society and Humanities Montana. And so we also would love to want to share their resources with you in hopes that they will inspire any work that you're doing with your students. And then our big hope, and this isn't a requirement, but we really hope that as you are participating in the series and maybe implementing some of the lessons and the ideas, your students will create some cool products that you would be willing to share with us, and that we could maybe put those products either on air around Finding Your Roots on television or on our digital platforms as well. Of course, that's not a requirement. You certainly don't have to, but we really hope that we might be able to collect some unique student artifacts from you as we work through this. The workshop is supposed to be 2 hours. It may or may not be today. That we've got some flexibility, but we try to build in a lot of time for you to just explore and look at things as I'm sharing, so you don't have to listen to me yap for 2 whole hours. We'll talk about the Media Lab and what this model is about. We'll talk about the Finding Your Roots resources. We'll talk a little bit about digital storytelling and what that is and why we should implement it. And then we'll look at some of the resources from our partners, Humanities Montana and the Montana Historical Society. So if you've joined us for Montana PBS Media Lab before, I don't think many of you have, but this was a series of workshops we started last spring. It was a response to COVID because at the time last year I couldn't go out into public and do training with teachers in person, and the need to help teachers use digital tools with their students was still there, and teachers still very much needed support in how to use them. So we developed this series, and the original workshop series was we took one tool and we focused on that one tool for the whole workshop. So we did a whole workshop on stop motion studio. We showed examples. We showed how to use it, and then we provided participants with time to practice using it and most people came out of those workshops having created a product, a practice product, feeling a little bit more confident to use it with their students when they were done. I don't teach all of them. I only teach a few of them. We have teachers from all over the state of Montana who guest present these workshops for us. All of them are technology coaches or technology experts in their schools and have lots of experience presenting and sharing with teachers. The purpose of these workshops is that we share information, but then we give you time to go through it and to feel like you got a good feel for it so that you can use it. We record all of the workshops and we put them on our website, and that's at montanapbs.org/media lab, and I'll put that in the chat box right now. And so if you wanted to look at some of the recordings from last year, you could type that into your browser and you'd find we have them on iMovie, we have them on Canva for education. So and I edit them out so that they're a little bit shorter than the original workshop. We don't give credit for workshops that you watch the recording. You do have to come in person and fill out our sign-in sheet and interact with us in order for you to get the credit. But the recording is there if you just want the information or you want to go back and take a look at it when we're done. Like I said, you will get 2 OPI credits, and I will email that certificate to you tomorrow morning. We will send you a little goodie bag in the mail. It'll look like this. That's why we asked for your address, because you will be getting a goodie bag in the mail. This year, thanks to our grant funding, all of our Media Lab participants are going to get one of these Bluetooth speakers. They're really cute and really fun. You can connect them to your phone and listen to your music and your podcasts on this. And then you're also going to get one of these super fun maze pens. It's like a maze. There's a little silver ball that goes through the maze. So just for being here and sharing your address with us, you will get these fun items plus some other fun things in the mail. So we'll make sure that you get that for attending. And then at the end of our time together, I'm going to give away some fun prizes, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. I've also got some extra prizes for people who are this group here. If you come to the next one, and if you bring a friend, we've got some special prizes for people to come to multiple workshops, if not all of them, and to bring people along with you so we can boost attendance. So that's how we keep track of all of that. And then we reward you for joining us more than once. And then you can see on this side, you can watch all of our past things on this website. So Finding Your Roots, hopefully you're familiar with the show on PBS. It's on Tuesday evenings on Montana PBS. The new season of Finding Your Roots began at the beginning of January. It's hosted by Henry Louis Gates. And it is basically a conversation between two people sitting at a table looking at a scrapbook. That's as simple as the show gets. But the team at Finding Your Roots does an enormous amount of research to go into the past of their guest, their celebrity guest, and they use both genealogical research as well as DNA testing to reveal interesting stories about these celebrities. The new season of Finding Your Roots is heavily focused more on the genealogical research and following the paper trail to discover the past of our guest, with a real emphasis on those stories that haven't been told because of some sort of racial issues, some of this, and a real emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We hope the resources from this season will really give you some great resources for tackling different perspectives about history with your students. For Finding Your Roots, and I should say, I'm going to get ahead of myself. You can watch Finding Your Roots on your television at 7 p.m. on Tuesday evenings. You can also stream it on our PBS website. We also have a streaming service called PBS Passport, which is a paid membership benefit. Anyone who is a member of Montana PBS, meaning they make a donation of $60 a year so that they can have access to Passport. That is one way that people can watch Finding Your Roots. Passport isn't allowed to be streamed in public settings like schools and libraries. It's meant to just be for home use. So just for your own information, if you do decide to subscribe to Passport, you can only watch it at home. You're not supposed to show it to your students because most of the programs behind the Passport are not licensed for large group screenings or for educational rights. So just a little side note there. I'm going to play our Finding Your Roots clip right now. Watching this recording, for those of you in the future, these clips aren't going to appear in the recording. We're not allowed to record these clips and put them on YouTube. That's why I put the links in the slides to watch later. So if you are a regular PBS viewer, you may have seen that clip already a couple times. Like I said, the new season 8, is airing right now and it will air all spring. And the first, I think, 4 episodes have gone out. We are going to have the clips and the educational resources available for season 8, but not until March. But we have the first 7 seasons, resources for the first 7 seasons though. And as I said, the focus of these current Finding Your Roots is all people who, for instance, there's the Children of Exile episode where, you know, it's 2 people whose families were exiled from other countries. And for that reason, they really never knew what their family history was there because there was so much pain involved in their parents' background. And it really is revealing secrets and the stories of these people that had been afraid to ask about their parents' past and learning these things. So that's kind of the theme that goes along through. I'm going to show an excerpt right now of the actress and director. Her name is Rebecca Hall. She is a white woman and she lives in London, and they discovered through the process that her grandfather was a Black man. And it was kind of something her mom had kept secret because it was during Jim Crow laws, and when that sort of thing was not something people wanted you to know or people talked about. So here I'm going to share this clip a little bit longer. This clip is like 20 minutes. I'm only going to share about 5 or 6 minutes of it. Take a moment. What were your thoughts? What came up while you were watching that? What did you think about?
I'm just so surprised, like a primary source document written would have lasted that long. Where was it preserved? I mean, who had it? I mean, how did it stay in such good shape? Those are questions I would like to know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, that's the beauty of professional researchers behind a television with the funding to go into that. But yeah, those are great questions. Anybody else have thoughts?
Just, I am so sorry for the dogs in the background, but Ms. McLaughlin, have you ever been to the Montana Historical Society? Hey, have you ever had a tour of the archives?
Yes, I have been.
But have you had a tour of the archives?
Yes, you're right. It's overwhelming. When you remind me of it, yes, it is overwhelming there too.
We have, I'm trying to think, the oldest document on site is 1810. And we specialize in original documents.
You're right. I guess I forgot that. Yes.
And then put that in perspective. So Montana's written history, just compare our written history to Ohio or Maryland, where they've had institutions preserving those documents.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I just didn't make that connection. Thank you. Yeah,
I had to, I'm sorry.
No, Zoe, I'm really happy you shared that. That's exactly what I hoped that someone from the Historical Society would want to share. So yeah, I got to tour the archives a few years ago too. And it was right after our film about the Bozeman Trail came out. And so Bruce had taken out some of the artifacts from the Bozeman Trail, and there was a journal kept by someone who had been on the trail, and just amazing what those artifacts look like and the things that we can learn by taking one of those tours. So I highly recommend it. Very fun. Cindy says you were amazed they were able to find her ancestor. I wish we could all have a professional researcher look into our past. Has anybody had, an opportunity to do your own genealogical research on your own family, and you'd want to share about that experience and what it was like?
More than happy to talk about my family,
Please
because
do.
I think my family is so quintessential of the Europeans who are now living in Montana. They came right before the First World War. They were all German speaking. They came from North Dakota. Some of them were well landed, for lack of a different term. But my grandfather was a janitor. My other grandfather was a beet farmer. And it's just, again, it's just so much part of Montana history that they came from homesteads and then did other things. And that's very typical of a Montana heritage.
Absolutely. Yes. My great grandfather immigrated from Norway and came to Montana and had set up, came here and set up a shop or set up a household, and then sent for his wife, and she came back, and they messed up his name on immigration. His name was Benedict Anderson from the county of Appland, and they made him Benjamin Appland. And so that is now my grandpa's name and my dad's name. Our last name is Appland, which was actually the county where they were from. But I can tell you that having that history and growing up having my father tell that story over and over, it made me feel more connected to our state, and made Montana history feel a little bit more significant to me when I was a kid learning that, which what we hope will do the same for you and your students as you use these resources to maybe inspire those kinds of projects. When I'm watching these clips from the show, I'm always touched by the joy that the guest feels at this discovery and learning about these stories. And always just, even if I don't know who the guest is and don't know anything about their background, I find myself getting really caught up in what they're learning and just how much it means to them to know these stories from their past. And for many of them, they have little snippets like I do, but the show kind of puts all those pieces together. Oh, Melissa has a nice comment here. Search Montana newspapers for other local research. And you work at the museum in Fallon County. And yes, fun little nuggets about your family. Great. You can do this yourself. Absolutely. You don't need to have a perfect, you just need the time, right? To go through all those documents and records and to do that. And as our presenter next week is going to talk about, just having kids interview family members and collecting audio stories as well. Just having them learn about those stories as well. So go back to my slides. We watched some clips, and now I'm going to talk to you about how to teach with Finding Your Roots. Where are the resources that you might want to use to dig into this show and use these clips and all of the lesson plans that have been created to go along with it. And it's on this free website for teachers called PBS Learning Media. And I'm just going to show how to get there. It looks like this. pbslearningmedia.org is the URL that you can use to get there. This website is free for teachers. It is a collection of resources that are created and produced by PBS stations all over the country, and then uploaded to the website and packaged for classroom use. So you're going to find full-length films, but you're also going to find clips of programs aligned to the standards, and then also aligned with lesson and materials and activities. So when you go to your browser, you just type in pbslearningmedia.org, and it'll bring you to this page. It might confirm that you're from Montana, and the Montana PBS logo should appear in the corner here. And that doesn't change any of the content on the site. It just connects you with Montana so that when you look at a resource and you see which standards are aligned to that resource, they'll be Montana standards. And I'll show you what that means. And as you scroll down, we have resources, all of these tiles are links to individual resources. But if you scroll down to about this part of the page, this is the part that is Montana specific. These are the collections of things that we've created here at Montana PBS, most of them based on our productions and programs. So if you've seen our program about Charlie Russell or Indian Relay or Keeping the Barn, those are all films that we had on air, and we edited those films into shorter clips that could be used in the classroom and then align them with lesson materials. So if you're coming to this site and you come to the topic box, and you type in finding your roots, and I just put in Henry Louis Gates just to be very thorough, you'll come across this collection called Finding Your Roots. And when you click on that one, you'll see that we have all 7 seasons of Finding Your Roots have been archived here in clips, not full episodes. And so you can go through each of these episodes, you can expand and just if you're interested in series 7 and see some of the guests from there. Now, all of these have been, so there's also lesson plans that have been written that are aligned to the topics that were shared in those episodes. So I'm going to show you, this is an example of a resource on PBS Learning Media. So this is the video. It's about 4 minutes and 23 seconds. You can see our resources on PBS Learning Media can be shared through Google Classroom, and then the links can be shared this way. We also have a lesson building tool that you can use to create more of an interactive lesson with students. Over here, you'll see where the lesson materials are. This one has a printable full lesson plan teaching about uncovering ancestry, as well as a teacher's guide, and then some activities that could be printed and used for background information to teach this lesson. I'm going to show you this video. All of our videos have captions, so we can turn those captions on. And that's always my tip, that if you're in a crowded room and the audio is not working, just turn the captions on. I'm going to show you this video because I think it does a really nice job of summarizing the basic framework of finding your roots. The guest sits down, talks to Henry Louis Gates. He asks some questions and he presents them with a scrapbook basically, and he takes them one page at a time through that scrapbook, answering any questions that they might have. And there's always 2 guests, and sometimes those guests are somewhat related in their story. So we'll watch this quick clip.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. Welcome to Finding Your Roots. In this episode, we'll explore the ancestry of actor Glenn Close and film director John Waters, 2 American icons who've turned their family traditions upside down.
I've always felt that to create art, you have to have a sense of outrage, and it fuels you.
I was rebelling from everything they believed in, and it was public. I didn't get good reviews. I got arrested for making a movie. So, yeah, what parent would be proud their kid made pink flamingos? None, really.
To uncover their roots, we've used every tool available. Genealogists help stitch together the past from the paper trail their ancestors left behind.
Wow.
While DNA experts utilize the latest advances in genetic analysis to reveal secrets hundreds of years old.
It's stupefying.
And we've compiled it all into a book of life.
Could you please turn the page?
I'm scared.
A record of all of our discoveries.
I knew someone had to be crazy in our family. It's kind of dramatic, though. It sounds like a movie scene I'd write.
John S. Worrell is charged with fornication. Yeah. I like him.
My guests are both independent spirits, artists who blaze their own trails, and they are both in for a surprise. In this episode, they're going to see that their family stories have been deeply woven into the fabric of this country, and that their ancestors helped shape America from its very beginnings. The paper trail had now run out for each of my guests. It was time to unfurl their family trees.
Oh my gosh.
This is a record of all of the ancestors that we found.
Now filled with ancestors whose names they'd never heard before.
You have an amazing family tree.
For both,
Amazing.
it was a moment of awe.
It will take me a long time to really assimilate this, and I can't tell you how moving it is for me.
Isn't that something?
That is amazing.
Offering the chance to see how their own lives fit into the larger journeys of their families and of our nation.
What's striking about doing your ancestry is that we can take you back on so many lines to primal scenes in American history, to the Puritans, to the Quakers, to slave owners in different locales. It's like you're a microcosm of the American experience. In all of its complexity, it's incredible. I mean, you do represent the many facets of the set of experiences that make America, America.
That's something to really think about. Because in some ways, we need to talk to each other.
Yeah.
It's something that we should learn about. I think it's incredibly important, especially today. It's sobering.
What has this journey meant to you?
It's meant to me a lot about how much I miss my parents and how much they would love to know all this and see it. And I could ask them, how much did you know of this? How come we never talked about this? Or how come, did you know it? Or how come you think your parents never told you this? Or if they did, I get why some of it you didn't tell. So I'd like to just see their reaction to it, because they'd be one step closer to it than I was.
That's the end of our search for the ancestors of John Waters and Glenn Close. Join me next time when we unlock the secrets of the past for new guests on another episode of Finding Your Roots.
That's a clip from the website, so you could use that with your students tomorrow. All of these are available here on the website. This is the lesson plan that goes along with it, and it was written in conjunction with the National Science Teaching Association, with the producers of the show. And this is for grades 7 through 12. But what I always tell teachers, pick the pieces from here and from this that works for your age group. There's certainly some discussion questions or some activities that you could tailor for your students. This is a very in-depth lesson plan with activities and things that you can look at, and the visuals that you might use. You may not need anything this detailed, but it's all there for you if you want to explore these topics of genealogy and DNA analysis with students. And that's in those resources there. When you're on this website, if you click this little heart button, this will favorite the resource and it'll prompt you to set up an account. So to favorite things and save them for later, you do want to set up a free account. And you can do that here at the top where it says sign up for free. If I sign in, I have a Google email address. So I use my Google credentials and sign in. Now it's connected me with Montana PBS. I can go back to that resource. Click on that one. Find my Glenn Close lesson here. Then I click favorite and it's saved it for later. So when I want to find that later, I can come up here where it says Nikki, because I've logged in, and touch this little arrow and go to favorites. Any of the things on the site that I have touched the little heart for and made a favorite now appear over here in my favorites, and I can find them for later. So I'm going to give you some time now to explore the Learning Media website. Hopefully you can set up a free account so that you can save things. And in particular, take a look at the Finding Your Roots teaching resources. If you're looking back at my slides and you navigate to slide 14, I've got links to those two collections. There's two collections on the website. The one I just showed you, Finding Your Roots, and then this one, which is called The Seedlings, which is all the materials for what was a camp that was conducted for students and on the campus of Penn State University. And it has Henry Louis Gates working with kids to explore genealogy and DNA analysis. And so each of these has a clip of him working with students and describing some things, and then some support materials to go along with it. So those are some other unique resources. And again, if you go to slide 14, and I think I'm going to give you about 20 minutes to really explore the PBS website and those Finding Your Roots resources, and really dig in and take a moment to take a look at those things and get a good feel for what is available. And then I'll just invite you to share when we come back. Carrie says, I was sidetracked with the railroad videos, and we're in the Industrial Revolution right now and just talked about the railroad. Perfect. I always find that learning media is a bit of a rabbit hole. And I just did that training with Jody's teachers at her school last week. And that was one of the first things the teacher said was, I feel like I just fell down a rabbit hole. It's all kinds of things on this website. So yes, you're welcome to search for anything else, that any other topic will be there. And we do have a lot of, PBS has a lot of historical documentaries. Montana PBS has created a lot of Montana history films and programs. And so there's a lot up there. I wanted to talk a little bit about digital storytelling and why it was a topic that I thought it would be fun to explore. When teachers started teaching online more, I got a lot of requests for these kinds of tools, tools that students could use to create products that they could share online with their teachers. But I got more excited about digital storytelling when I was in the classroom. I taught kindergarten and first grade for a number of years. And my job as a K-1 teacher was to fill my students' backpacks with paper and send them home with paper. And when I became a mom and my own children came home from kindergarten, I found I pulled a lot of crumpled, wet paper out of backpacks underneath of snow boots and things like that. And I'm trying to get a feel for what this is. And it was sort of where I began, what if there was a digital way for kids to show what they know that doesn't involve digging wet paper out of a backpack? And so that was part of my inspiration. I started blogging with my kindergarten and first graders. And we used at that time a website called Kid Blog. And a lot of what we were doing was just using our iPads to take pictures of whatever it was we were doing in the classroom, and then typing, quick sentences to describe what we did, or audio recording or making a video to describe what we did. But what we ended up having through that blog was this beautiful digital record of our students' progress from the time we started to the end of the school year. We had a way of sharing that work with a larger audience, with a more authentic audience. We had grandparents out of state, some of them out of country, could click in and read our blog and leave comments. And it's really opened my eyes for digital storytelling being a way to give students a more authentic audience and a more permanent record of the things that they're doing and they're sharing in school. And so that's why one of the things I get to do is work with teachers to use these kind of digital tools in the classroom where they're creating digital products to show what they know. So when I got the grant RFP for Finding Your Roots, and I saw this amazing inspiration for storytelling and learning our stories, digging into our family history, and then taking that idea and combining it with digital storytelling, taking what we've learned from whatever research we've done or whatever family member we might have interviewed, and creating some kind of a digital product that can be saved and preserved and shared with other family members. I thought this would be a really neat connection, and that I probably wouldn't need to make a real structured connection, because you teachers can see the potential in these things. I'm sure that if I show you the resources and I show you the tools, you probably get a really good idea of what this might look like for your students. But just to give like your basic digital storytelling definition is that we use multimedia tools to bring stories to life so that we can share them with an authentic audience. And that's just whatever audience exists outside of the classroom walls. We can use video, photo collage, audio, comic books, ebooks, blogging. These are just some of the ways that we can have students tell the stories and share the research that they're doing in this digital storytelling. So starting next week, we're going to dig deep into each of these tools one at a time. We're going to start next week with Tracy Piltz from Billings, and she's going to teach about stop motion studio and creating stop motion stories based on family research. All of these applications are free with the exception of Do Inc. I think that one is a paid application, so I do want to put a little asterisk next to that. If it is for a specific device, I tried to put that on this because you are not required to come to all of these. You get credit for the ones you attend. And so if you don't have the device that pairs with the tool that we're going to be sharing, while you're welcome to come, you just might not get very much out of the time. So I wanted to give you all that information as you go forward. So Stop Motion Studio, for instance, next week, it's meant to be used on mobile devices, a tablet, or a Chromebook. And it is an app that has to be downloaded from the Google Play Store or from wherever your tablet gets its apps. And you'll want to download these things and have them ready to go as soon as the workshop starts so that you can start using it as the workshop goes on. Apple Clips and iMovie, those are only on Apple devices. So if you don't have access to an Apple device, don't worry about coming to those. Now you're also welcome to come if you just want the information, and maybe you're going to buy an iPad sometime in the future, but you might not get as much out of it. Our second one, Jody Sandrew is here, and she's going to teach us about Adobe Cloud Express, formerly known as Adobe Spark. That's the one thing about our tech field is they change names of things all the time. But she's going to talk about Adobe Spark. And so these are all the tools. I've got them linked if you want to click on them and take a look at them and see which ones might be useful for you, which ones you might want to check out. We have done Media Lab workshops for some of these. So we have a Media Lab workshop on our website, an in-depth hour-long about just these, about Stop Motion Studio, Apple Clips, Pixton, Do Inc., iMovie. We've got a couple on iMovie. And so just those ones. And then our last two, StoryCorps, I'm going to be doing that one. And Timeline JS is another fun tool for creating digital timelines that you can put audio and video and pictures in a timeline for students. So those are the tools we'll be using as the series continues. And like I said, come to the ones that interest you and that you have access to those devices, skip the ones that you don't. They'll all run about the same as this. We'll talk about finding your roots. We'll share some new resources and some new clips. And then I'll throw it to our trainer and they'll show you how to use that digital storytelling tool. Carrie asked about Chromebooks. So the ones that most of these should work on Chromebooks, except for Apple Clips will not work on a Chromebook. iMovie will not work on a Chromebook. Everything else will work on a Chromebook. And WeVideo is very similar to iMovie. So if it's got a very similar look to it, and you can do pretty much the same features with WeVideo as you can with iMovie, and that's a web-based tool that will work with Chromebook. And then the comic book, so Pixton is the comic book app one where you can have kids make comic strips. And then I'll also throw out Book Creator. Isn't on our list, but if you're interested in a comic book style digital product, Book Creator works for that as well. But yeah, Pixton is your comics, your digital comics tool. And Sarah Rainey will be here to do that training. But we've got a recording of it too if you want to dig deeper a little bit sooner. So good questions. All right, well, I'm going to move on to the next one where we talk about our partner resources. So a requirement of this grant was that I needed to find some willing partners in the state that had a similar interest in these topics. And I was really, really fortunate that the Montana Historical Society and Humanities Montana, in addition to already having some amazing resources available for teaching about these topics, were also willing to be partners. And I didn't require that they be here if they couldn't make it, but mostly they helped us promote it, which was really helpful. I know a lot of you found us through the Montana Historical Society's newsletter and Facebook groups, and so we're really grateful. And so I've curated some of the resources from those sites. Zoe, I would love for you to share anything that you know exists, put you on the spot if you don't mind, that you think teachers, you might want to point to teachers, and I can navigate on the site too if you want. We're not sure.
I cannot pass up a chance to talk about the Historical Society.
Yes, please do.
So it's in regards to teaching, the Montana newspaper site. And there are two pathways to digitize newspapers from that site. One is Chronicling America through the Library of Congress, and that's a result of a series of grants. And the other one is just simply Montana newspapers, and I love searching it, has small town newspapers that have, small towns have committed to getting their newspapers online, and they make certain that it happens through us. Let's see. Of course, the Montana Memory Project is great. Lots of photos, maps from all over the state, not just the Historical Society collection. Yearbooks. I was thinking, if you're going to interview your parents or your grandparents, find out if their yearbooks are online. That would be so much fun. Let's see. Montana Memory Project, our digital, and then of course, on site we have ancestry.com and newspapers.com, but there are lots of places throughout the state that have those subscriptions. And I would just encourage anybody and everybody to play with them. It's just amazing. And then the Historical Society Index. We're just like every other library. We have everything as far as I know. We have everything cataloged and numbered so that those of us who aren't librarians can find it. And it gives you a good idea of, I tell you what, hit research. Nikki.
Yeah, okay.
And there you go. This is your portal to everything. The blue box will give you access to our catalog. You can search anywhere. And that will include the published material. You will get, let's see. All of our oral histories are going to be on there. All of our archive material. So the original materials that we're so proud of and that we want people to use, those primary sources will come up. They're not digitally reproduced. This is a catalog. If there are a few that are reproduced, and there'll be a link when you hit them. Let's see. I could go on forever.
That's great. Yeah, I just grabbed a few things, and there was this place called Digital Projects, and and the digitized newspapers is there. So I think I put those up there. And then the virtual tours, I thought that was really cool. But yeah, this website is just, there's so much. Talk about another rabbit hole. If you've spent any more time on here. And we've partnered with Montana Historical Society on projects before. In fact, if you're looking at our Charlie Russell resources, we created this collection using a lot of the pieces of work from the Historical Society. And so I was fortunate enough to get actual images, permission to print the actual images from the Historical Society to include with these lessons on the website. So we're good partners between the two sites, and you can go even deeper into these topics when you go to the resources. And if you don't get their newsletter, they do a really nice job of sharing lesson plans and events and things happening across the state in their newsletter. Would highly recommend subscribing to that. All right, and then our other partner, I don't think we have anyone from Humanities
I
Montana.
wanted to encourage everybody to join with Martha Cole. She sends out the most fantastic, she does, the work's already done, the research is already done.
Yes.
Lesson plans, especially for high school. And she does put it by grades, but they have one on World War I, all these primary sources. It is just fantastic. And they have already done all the work for us. So Martha Cole is a wonderful resource if anybody needs something. She's a go-to person. So I want to give a plug for her. So.
Well, and I took you, thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. I took you into the Research Center because that's where I work. But if you click on the menu across the top, it runs horizontally. If you click on education, you will find lesson plans, you will find women's history, you'll find African American history, the website for our textbook and lesson plans for the textbook. And the World War I is one of my favorites. Martha.
Oh, it's.
Wow. They spent so much time on it, and it's really an amazing insight into our ancestors that not that long ago.
Right.
So
Another one that Martha, I don't know if Martha had it or I found it, but my kids had to create historical memes using historical photos. And I mean, they loved it. It's like, yeah, it's it's just fun. So.
That's a great digital storytelling connection. Is a historical meme. I love it.
Oh, they did good. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Trouble is, I don't always understand them, but they think they're hysterical, and I'm not getting it at all, but they like it. So.
I have a teacher I know in Three Forks that she had a thing she did every Friday that she's called it, "What do you meme? It's Friday." And she had a Google slide deck that she let the kids put a meme on one of the slides, and they could go and either make their own or find one that they liked, as long as it was appropriate for school. And then they took turns projecting the memes and talking about what they meant and why they were funny. And so it was a good, sometimes language, sometimes science, sometimes history. It was kind of a cool activity, and the kids looked forward to "What do you meme? It's Friday" every week. So memes are such a fun way to get kids excited and get them engaged. All right, well, let me move on to our Humanities Montana resources. And this resource, they have the Speakers in School program. I don't know if anyone here has taken advantage of this program. It is, I believe, a paid program, but they do work with schools to make sure that whatever happens is within budget. I know there are a lot of grants for this. Right now, they're all virtual, which is even more convenient. You can probably connect with speakers, a greater variety of speakers, but they have these people from all over the state, and some of them are out of state, who really specialize in telling stories and connecting with classrooms and speaking about historical topics and historical events. And some of them, like this one, they dress in the period clothing and really give students an immersive experience. And so we wanted to share this website and encourage you to take a look at it and see if this is something that you'd like to add to your digital storytelling. Maybe have students listen to some of these stories and then recreate them using digital tools. I think the possibilities are endless. And you can click on this and kind of go through, as you can see just how many of them there are, and click on this and go through that. Queen Elizabeth time travels to Montana. How much fun is that? I want to watch that one. but go through and really see how you might be able to bring these into your classroom, and to just really, again, more layers to inspire storytelling and research with students.